Welcome to the White Sox REKAP Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. Well, it certainly feels as we close this 2025 campaign that this young, fun White Sox team, and certainly in the second half, has seemed to run out of gas as of late. Offensively, they just don't have enough. Pitching, they just don't have enough. But that doesn't put a damper on what we've seen over the past few months of this young core and what the White Sox have going forward. Chris Getz, the general manager and senior VP of the Chicago White Sox, held an end of the season State of the Union at the rate on Wednesday. We are going to hear from Chris Getz. We are going to break down what he said. Is he surprised by the success of this young core? Does that mean that we accelerate the rebuild? Oh boy, we've done that before. And will the White Sox spend in 2026 and beyond to complement the young guys that we've seen have success? It's all brought to you by the Illinois Tollway and their If Only campaign. A quick timeout to talk about something serious. We've all said it before. If only I had slowed down. The Illinois Tollway's new campaign is called If Only, and it's a powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk. It affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they had done things differently. So take the extra time, slow down, save lives, including yours. Depend on it. The Illinois Tollway, a proud partner of the REKAP and the White Sox REKAP Podcast. Brian Anderson, Jonathan Hood, both in the house today to break down Chris Getz and his State of the Union on the 2025 season. It all starts right now on the White Sox REKAP Podcast.
But what we saw in the second half, I think, is real. I do. So it's our job to support it and maintain that and continue to take steps forward.
All right, Brian Anderson, Jonathan Hood, you heard right there from Chris Getz, and we're going to hear plenty more from the VP of those Chicago White Sox, or senior VP and GM of the Chicago White Sox. Yes, they took a lot of steps forward. Yes, it's going to equal maybe a 60-win team as we're all said and done here, but certainly what we've seen in the second half, I'm curious, and we're going to hear from a lot about this specific topic, about how the White Sox complement this roster going forward, because to me, it is a fork in the road. And Hoodie, I want to ask you first, because it feels like a fork in the road moment for the White Sox. To me, a 16 to 20 game improvement, that's something. Now it's time to jump on that, because going from 57 or 60 wins to 72 or 75 next year doesn't feel that good to me, because I think you've seen enough from the guys you need to see from that you might want to dip your toes into the correct free agent waters.
So I sat out there and I watched the White Sox last game against the Baltimore Orioles. I'm sitting out there down the first baseline. I'm looking up at the sky because I was thinking, Lord, could you just give us a few runs, just make this game interesting? And I got a lot of that, by the way, in the second half of the season, where I'm just looking up in the sky, just like sitting at the ballpark. I just want them to be able to score some runs. And you're right, they have run out of gas. I really believe that the White Sox are in a position, BA, to be able to at least get to the middle shelf, if not the top shelf, to be able to find some pitching. I like some of the parts that the White Sox have, obviously, but you could see I'm watching Perez out there struggling with the shoulder, giving all he can. But I just think that it starts with pitching, whether it's back of the bullpen or starting pitching, and then you can move from there.
Well, yeah, Guff and I were talking about, there's no doubt the White Sox need to spend in the bullpen this offseason. But first and foremost, Guff, if the White Sox don't get to 63, they're absolutely freaking killing me, man. They were on a
They're not getting there.
I know, but they were cruising, man. They were right there. They were about to go they got to go 6-3 for these last or
yeah, you get the Padres. Padres are playing for their playoff lives in terms of positioning. Yep. The Yankees are right there as well. And then you get the Nationals. So you probably, if you can win one of the 6 against those first two teams, maybe you probably get to 60, maybe 61.
Yeah, but to Hoodie's point though, you're absolutely right, man. They got to spend in the back end of the bullpen, or they got to have something where they can come in and say, guys, we're up 3-1. Like sometimes you win those games, right? That's a big league baseball game. You get two really good pitching staffs going at it. You got to be able to win ball games 1-0, 3-1, 3-2. You got to have someone in the back end of the bullpen. You're like, hey, he might get hit around, but he's not going to walk guys. He's not going to be inconsistent. He's going to fill up the zone. Like a Brian Wilson. I know that's a bad comp because he was so dominant for so long, but Hey, we knocked Brian Wilson around one time in the interleague in 08, but you know what? He threw strikes. He filled up the strike zone. He came after you. He's like, you're going to have to hit your way to this win. I'm not going to give you any freebies. I'm
going to talk to Getz. We're going to have him back here in the offseason, get him comfortable again on the couch. But I want to talk specifically, and we did yesterday, and I'm going to play that in a little bit here because you guys know how I've felt all year. I do think if Chris could go back and redo the 2025 team, he would have a 1-year closure. I look at Kenley Jansen. Kenley Jansen is wasting time for the LA Angels saving games. He's 27-28 with like his low sub-3 ERA, just doing what that's the type of 1 year, $10 million. You telling me a guy who has 400 plus career saves couldn't be the best? They'd be at 63 right now, BA. They've lost games because they haven't had a guy in the ninth inning. And I'm not saying like they should invest on a $50 million closer, but there are enough guys out there with experience less than Kenley Jansen that could take up that ninth inning. Let's hear from Getz giving his overarching outlook and maybe even a surprise to the way some of these guys have performed in 2025.
Oftentimes I get asked how you're going to measure success, knowing that wins and losses might be a difficult measure. And you look across this team, the contributions that we've gotten from so many young players, the Kyle Teals and the Caros and what Colson Montgomery has done, and Chase Mydroth in his first season in the big leagues, Vargas taking a step forward, Lenin Sosa having the year that he did, Shane Smith becoming an all-star, as a Rule 5 pick, and Mike Vassell being excellent in the bullpen role, as another Rule 5 pick that we were able to acquire. So, to have this young group transition to the big leagues the way that they have, looking back, if you would have told me that they were going to come up here and do what they've done and shown the fight that they have, I would have been pretty happy. With that being said, we acknowledge that there's plenty of work that needs to be done. We know that we're in a review phase right now, looking at different areas of the organization, whether it be departments, coaching staff, players, what have you. And once we, exit kind of the review phase and enter in the off season, we want to continue the momentum that we've created here. We're excited about the future. Just anyone that seemingly has tracked and followed the White Sox, there's been a lot of brighter moments than years past, and people can see and feel the build here, and that was really the goal coming in. And we're going to find ways to improve this. Most importantly, we need to have these young players or players in this organization have an excellent offseason. Absolutely, dominate when it comes to their offseason programming and providing the support that's needed, in that continual development. So, we're organizing that. We're going to carry it out in the off season because these players, this group is vital, for the future success of this organization. And so, we've got a little bit more time to season's end. We want to finish as strongly as we can, continue to have conversations with Will and the staff, and we've got coordinators and directors in town having discussions, and then make some decisions at the end of the season, and continue to build the momentum in the off season and bring us towards 2026.
All right. Boy, somewhere Rick Hahn's saying, boy, that answer was too long.
Well, what's funny, Hoodie? Not just that. Somewhere I've heard that like exact same stuff. Momentum, continue to build, right? Like I've heard those things before. I heard that like in the moment. I'm like, okay, we've been here before. Yeah. I like the idea of that. Don't get me wrong. Like talking about what we just said about adding closers and spending money in the right end of the pool. We all, the three of us, are not naive enough to believe they're going out and spending 9 figures on anybody. Like we'll put that out there right now, but there is enough free agency. We've talked about some of the names in the past here, like the type of guys you could add to this particular team, mid-tier starters to give depth to the young guys that are still here and the young guys that are right behind them. Your infield's pretty much intact. You need a first baseman. I really kind of feel like that. And there's going to be some talk about that for the first time in 40 years. The White Sox need a first baseman. You don't need a catcher. There's some money to be spent smartly And in a division like this, if Chris is serious about momentum and continuing the buzz of the last 3 months of the White Sox, because I'll tell you this, Hoodie, if the Sox are sitting at 65 wins next year at the end of the season, that buzz is going to be completely silenced.
Yes. So the question I would have for Chris Getz if I was among the media is, have you taken care of all your debt that you want to take care of first? Because as soon as we heard about the Ishbias, it was about, well, we got to take care of the debt. Maybe that comes from the pandemic. They want to clean that up. That's fine. But ultimately, the average Sox fan, BA, wants to know one thing. When will you start putting money into the ball club? Simple as that. And again, we're not expecting, you're not going to be the Dodgers, the Mets.
No.
You're not going to be that. But at least you give the young guys a chance by having mid-level free agents in there and guys that can eat some innings. That gives you a chance from a pitching standpoint. The hitting can take care of itself.
No doubt. We all three of us talked about it on the first time we were all three of us together on the podcast. And, we always, there's this cliche buzzword, right, called the rebuild. And unfortunately for the White Sox, for Chris Getz, for Will Venable, for all of us, but for White Sox fans as well, they've shown way too much promise this year for that window to be as big as people thought it was. So that window for the rebuild has shrunk drastically. And by shrink, to your point, Guff, is if they're looking at 65 to 68 wins next year, people are going to be pissed off. They've shown they're young. They've shown they're talented. Now go out there and spend some money so we can solidify and hammer down the back end of that bullpen and lock down some of those one-run games. My God, I mean, what was their record when we started doing this podcast or when we first started talking about it midway through the year? They were like 1-11 in one-run games. It was terrible. So just by eliminating and chopping that in half makes the season drastically better.
It's bad, Guff, when you can actually audibly hear Len Casper and DJ twiddling their thumbs in the broadcast, just waiting for something. They're just calling the game, and it's just kind of like, anything going to happen? Base hit the other way, bunt, whatever to get on. And you're right, like the water's been shut off of this team. I don't want to get here when we're doing this this time next year, where just the water's been cut off, the pitching isn't there. I want to be optimistic. It's not going to be a winning record, but I want a lot more than what I saw this year.
And this is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping Chris Getz can go to Jerry and say, look, are we going to win the AL Central next year? No. Can we be the Detroit Tigers of last year where we sell a few parts because we're not quite there at the deadline and then just get red flipping hot all the way into the playoffs? Can they? And it's funny I bring them up because Chris does in a soundbite we're going to hear. But that's because tell me why they can't with this young guy, with this young core. And for the first time, certainly in the last 20 plus years, and if we're going to compare rebuilds, okay, which we should, I do think it's important to compare them because it was 4 years ago that the White Sox won the AL Central. I swear to God, it was 10. There's no way it was
a serious question, though. It's been bothering me. I've been waiting till all three of us were back on here again. Okay, so Guff, you and I have talked about it many a time. We won 89 games, I think, or 90 games in 2006 after we won the World Series. We got torched, right? So is it too much to ask as a former White Sox player, White Sox fans, or from a management or an administrative standpoint? Isn't 81-81 still a rebuild? Like to play 500 baseball, I don't think that's asking a major league team too much.
Yeah. I mean,
81-81, man. I mean,
wait a minute.
People are getting fired.
We have done multiple podcasts together where we've all sit there and be like, if they can get to 63 and 99, you got to celebrate it. So 81-81
next year. I mean, if they spend money,
dude, if they were 81,
if they had a bat and two arms in the bullpen, like, is it
if they're 80
team to say, guys, 81-81 will make us, that would be a huge stride. We're like 81-81. I'm getting released or sent down. You're getting fired. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, but this isn't your mom. This isn't Brian Anderson's MLB. 81-81. Are you kidding me? If that's what you're telling, next year the White Sox are 81-81. Will Venable, if he should get back end manager of the year votes this year, in my opinion.
There should be a runner-up.
He won't be runner-up. I'm talking like 5th, 6th, 7th. He should. He really should. Look at the roster he walked in to opening day with versus today. He's You know how many different players the White Sox have started this year? 60.
Jeez, man.
So like they're almost 20 game improvement, man. So to your point about 1-run games, and then we're going to hear from Getz again, because he specifically talks about free agency. They're 13-33 in 1-run games this year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, chop that in half, Guff. We're talking about 80 wins. Think about that.
But from a White Sox fan standpoint like me, that doesn't feel close.
No,
you know when that feels close? You know when that feels close? Football. That's when it feels close. That's when you feel like, you know what? We're pretty close here. We could close the gap. But in baseball in a long season, when you can't get over the hump, that means you're 7th, 8th, and 9th. You can't get the key hit. And that sucks. You know, when you're invested like I am as a White Sox fan, listening or watching to this every night, you're saying, man, the rally is few and far in between late in the game, and that's when you make your money. That's when you build your team as far as confidence. Like, hey, if we're down, we're going to take good swings, and we're going to have good ABs to be able to keep ourselves in it.
And if I bring up the AL Central again, okay, because when we talk about close and 81 and 81, BA, they were 0-for in Kansas City and Cleveland. Okay, 0-for. They did not win a game, and they were 5-21 against the Royals and Guardians. So don't tell me, like, it's to Hoodie's point, it's not about 1-run games. It's about I hear 5-21 against two teams that are not going to the postseason in your own division, and 13-33 in 1-run games. I don't need to see the overall record. I already know what it is. I already know what it is. So as positive as there's things been, they are still a 57-win team. So is it time for the White Sox to spend some money? Let's see what Chris Getz said.
Well, you got to get an understanding of what the free agent market is. Obviously, what other clubs are trying to accomplish in regards to working out a trade to help out each club. So time will tell. You need to kind of get a sense of how quickly the market's going to move. I think more than anything, you look at the free agent market, you look at the pitching and the hitting, and what we feel like could be a fit here. It's a little too early to predict how everything's going to play out, but I think all areas of the team can be improved. But the most important thing is continuing the improvement and development of our young players.
Does he look at where you are in this process? Is it time to add some significant pieces, or is it too early for that from the outside?
It's honestly just too early right now to state how we're going to approach this offseason. The primary focus is certainly making sure these guys close out the year strongly, have an excellent offseason, and get ready to go in spring training. And we'll look at the free agent market. If it makes sense and we match up, then we'll go ahead and do that. But what's really going to drive this are the players that are currently in our uniform. And if there are opportunities to supplement this group and continue to drive this forward, we're going to go ahead and do that.
Does the uncertainty of 2027 impact the possibility of adding free agents?
To be honest, that really, I don't want to focus on that too much. What's going to happen is going to happen. We just want to continue to find ways to get better. We really do. It's not, talking about this year or this year or this year. I mean, you look at Will and how he tackles each day. It's finding a pathway to victory. You might have a tough loss, but the group shows up the following day ready to win, and that's led by Will, and his consistency of messaging, his ability to adapt and connect with our players to motivate them on a daily basis. So we don't want to get too far in front of us. We're focused on having an excellent off season and building that momentum into 26, and then after 26 we'll focus on the future years.
Duff, I couldn't see by his waist. Did he have handcuffs on during that interview?
I'm so glad you took it from there, because I was going to be like, Jonathan Hood, please take it away, because you and I were smirking at the same things.
It's just bullshit. I understand that he has not had the conversation with Jerry, the end of the year conversation saying, hey, Jerry, in free agency, how much is my budget? How much can I spend? Is the debt done that I can actually spend some money on some mid-tier free agents? So I buy that he hasn't talked to Jerry about it, but also, BA, you didn't see below his waist there was handcuffs for him not to do anything for the White Sox right now.
I heard that beautiful voice of Ryan McGuffey, though. You best believe I heard that. But no, let me tell you, man, you guys were shaking your head laughing. I was like getting noticeably frustrated. I mean, Chris Getz is a dear friend, but still, and I know it's not all on him, but if you're trying to tell me they don't know what the budget is or know what their debt is and how they're going to pay it off, they have people in finance that deal with this shit every day. This is a clear-cut situation, and this is what I hate about rebuilds is it's a game of hurry up and wait. It's, hey, are you going to spend money? Well, we need to see. Are you going to just – if they would have fucking came out and just been like, hey, guys, listen, we know we have to address the back end of the bullpen. Guff, all you fans out there, we hear you loud and clear. Hoodie, BA, we are going to spend. How much? Not sure how much, but we are going to spend money this offseason. How much more fired up would you be?
BA,
Yeah, I mean,
if you're in that seat in a golf polo, you'd be saying the same thing as your buddy Getz. You'd be saying the same thing.
I wouldn't, man. That's why I'd never be there. They'd fire me. I could never be. I have no filter. Ask Guffey. Like, I could put on a face for about 5 minutes. I'd be like, you know what? I haven't fucking talked to Jerry yet because you know what? He's too busy doing the stadium shit. And I'm pissed off too. And I'd be like, boom, fired.
here's what okay. So in essence, is there a little bit of talking in circles there, right? I mean, we want to spend and we need to build off the momentum. And then but at the end of the day, our offseason program with our guys we got to make sure that that's the root of this. Here's I'm being 100% serious about this. I don't want to see one of these young core members extended this offseason. Not one. That's, you know why? Been there, done that. They tried to do it the first time, and when they failed to deliver on the 9-figure deal, they went to the 3 of them and said, hey, you got the money, now here's the keys. That was never the intention. I don't want the keys to go to these guys. I have zero problem, none, with them being the culture. I have zero problem with these guys collectively coming up as a young core, 5, 6, 7 deep, and saying, this is how we're playing White Sox baseball in 2026 and beyond. And Will Venable's the guy that delivers that message, and the players are on the field doing it every single day. No problem whatsoever. So go earmark 3 or 4 players. None of us are sitting here pounding the pavement for the White Sox to go out and get a $40 million per year guy. We know that's not even possible. We're not stupid. We're not going to sit here and waste everyone's time. But damn it, when you don't know guys in the roles of their bullpens, it's 6 months later. 6 months later, we still don't know who in the 7th inning is getting the ball, in the 8th inning is getting the ball, and who the hell's getting the toughest 3 outs in baseball. Then that means you got to go fiscally. You have to be fiscally responsible and you have a responsibility to your fans. And Chris says it. So somewhere in between the murky, cloudy bullshit water, you have to deliver. You can't just, Grant Taylor, we like, no. And I know bullpen volatility forever and always will be as certain as death and taxes. I'm okay with that. I'm okay that if they go out and sign, I'll say Kenley Jansen next year for 1 year, $10 million. And Kenley Jansen for the first time shows signs of aging. Fine. I'm okay with that.
How old is that guy, by the way? Hasn't he been like 31 forever?
So the Sox have had plenty of those guys. Okay. They have a couple on their roster right now. But the reason, Hoodie, that we were shaking our heads is because while I do believe, like, I'm sitting here poo-pooing everything Chris said, but I also have proof over the last 12 months that it does look and feel a little different. So like my little flickering light of optimism is there, but you mentioned the handcuffs and it worries me.
It's only because you know that the White Sox are not going to spend in abundance to be able to get this better. It's funny because I'm reading like projections for the Sox to be second or third place next year, and I go, how's that happening if you don't spend money on pitching? How's that happening? Like, I'm a Mydroth guy, right? I love Mydroth. I love our young players. But still, like, you can't go anywhere without pitching, without being able to get that done. So, I'm out there at the game yesterday, and I'm just kind of looking around, saying, you know what? In a few years, it's going to be good, but you got to solidify a number of these spots, but it starts with pitching. That's what it is for me.
They got nobody that's a wipeout. Like here's before BA you chime in here. Like here's what I know about the White Sox rotation. This is what I think I know. I think Shane Smith's the guy. I do. I think Shane Smith has proven. I'm more impressed with what he's done in the second half than what he did in the first half. I really am. He looks like He has been the best pitcher on the team, and it's not even close. Hands down, he deserved to be an all-star. And then I think Davis Martin is a guy too. Is he a 2? Is Shane Smith a 1? I don't think he is. I think he has a ceiling of a really good 2. I think Davis Martin's a pretty damn good 4 on a great team and can be a middle guy, a bridge guy, a stopper. And then after that, I honestly don't know. I think Sean Burke walks a ton of guys. He has a control problem. He needs the opener. I think Jonathan Cannon, at the end of the day, his stuff might be suited for a really good 7th inning, dude. I'm being dead serious. I think he's got some opportunity to be a back-end bullpen guy. That is fine. But what's not? But what I just told you is that 40% of the White Sox rotation, I'm cool with. So who are the other 3? And I know there's guys coming. I know Drew Thorpe's coming back from surgery. I know Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith are knocking on the door, but they're not where Chris talked about it yesterday. We're not going to hear about those 2 specifically, but he did think at the beginning of the year, those 2 guys would be at the major league level in September, at least throwing meaningful, maybe at 1 or 2 innings, but getting that experience. And they're not. They're going to the fall league. Noah Schultz is going to be shut down because of his knee injury. So those guys are going to probably start in the minors next year. So projections are just that. Hoodie's talking about 2nd and 3rd place. I just gave you 2 starters next year that I feel okay with.
Hey, starters are cheap, right? Big league, efficient plus arms eat up innings. Those are real cheap. But no, Guff, I mean, here's the way we look at it. We could beat ourselves up this entire podcast. We could slice and dice it however we want. But Hoodie hit the nail on the head. He said the offense is gone amok, man. They've hit a dead stop. They are not producing runs. And guess what? That tends to happen at the end of the season, especially with a young team who's not used to playing 162, right? But the bottom line is this. You find a way to solidify that bullpen and chop those 1-run games in half and go 15, go 25 and 20 or 25 and 25 or whatever the math adds up to, and play 500 baseball. This team's right around 80 wins. This team's right around that, that 75, 80 win mark. So if I'm Jerry, or if I'm the brass, I'm saying here's 40, 50 million this offseason for pitching. Go get it. Like you got to go get another starter and got to get 2 guys in the bullpen, period.
I just, and offensively speaking, there's a number of these guys that you would never have on your fantasy team at the bottom of a roster that's on this White Sox team. Like, I don't want to see Michael A. Taylor in a White Sox uniform anymore. And you can always tell when you go to the ballpark, right? You got Honda up there, Michael A. Taylor, and it's like nothing. You know why? Because when Taylor, when you want a guy to work a count, what does he do? Swing at the first fucking pitch. Just like, hey. And maybe
I did that a few times, Eddie.
and maybe, well, I booed you, and so
thanks, man.
So maybe Jonathan Hood said at the game against the Orioles, "Hey, you want to work a count, Taylor?" When he made that turn, I might have said that after a couple of Miller Lights. I might have done that yesterday.
2 or 3.
Hey,
just work a count, man. It's like Jerry Manuel used to ask his guys, like, he wouldn't yell, he'd just go, "How many pitches did you see?" One.
God, he's so smooth, wasn't he? Man, he was so. I remember Jerry Manuel. I went to the press conference right after I got drafted, and the White Sox didn't get a bunt down in the 9th, and they lost. And in the press conference of me being green, just getting drafted, Jerry Manuel looks up at me, and goes, "Can you bunt, kid? Well, you better be able to if you come here." And I'm like, "Wait, I'm not batting 3-hole?" No, but it's crazy you said that. In the baseball world, man, I think that's what really separates really good hitters from bad hitters is, and I know I did this myself. When you're struggling and you're not confident in your ability and you're not confident and you haven't built up the rapport and the trust in yourself, you want to get a swing off as quick as possible. And I can specifically remember we were doing a scouting report for Kenny Rogers and he was
gambler.
He was with Detroit. And we had said when we left the locker room, when we got up, we are taking a strike. We want to get him deep in counts. And first fucking pitch, foul ball, but I yanked a foul ball into our dugout, and you could see Greg Walker at the top of the steps going, "What? Like, we just said we're taking a pitch. Like, what are you doing?" So I share Michael A. Taylor's at the affinity of being able to not follow a game plan.
We all agree that they offensively they look like they may be out of gas, but I think the 3 of us can also agree, and Chris Getz too, about how surprised we were by the success just all around from Mydroth to Caro to obviously what Colson's done, Kyle Teal. They've all shown it, not just in spurts, but at times in duration through a month, not just a week, not a month, multiple months. And Chris Getz was asked if he too was surprised.
The offensive improvements in the second half, would you call that a pleasant surprise? Did you top 10 OPS and some other,
Yeah, that's a pleasant surprise. I mean, when, coming in, after the All-Star break and the way they got off to such a great start and then continued that, you look back at Colson Montgomery and once again what he was doing earlier in the year and what he has done at the major league level, that was a bit of a surprise and certainly a pleasant one. So, this offense is capable. Does it need to be a little bit deeper and a little bit more balanced and perhaps get a little bit more creative in finding runs and creating runs? Sure. But that's just part of navigating a lengthy season. But I think these guys, they should have a fair amount of confidence based on their experience this year to help their growth for 2026.
What are you seeing from Colson defensively and what his future could be there at short?
He's been very consistent. You look at how accurate his throws are, his steadiness of his gloves, his glove. He's a reliable defender that, oftentimes people point to his height and is he going to be able to stick at shortstop? I think he's proven that he can. And it can be he can make an impact defensively, the way that he leads. The entire field, the captain, so to speak, on the infield, he's got that presence about him. So, we feel very confident that he's going to be able to remain at shortstop for a while, and we feel very fortunate to have him at that position.
16 to 20 game improvements win improvements don't happen, obviously, year after year. But when you look at your own division, you had teams up until a week ago that have still been in the wild card hunt. So when you do your projections and you look at this team and what you want to add, how do you not get too far ahead of yourself? Or is this team maybe some of these pleasant surprises, maybe hit the gas pedal a little quicker to say maybe next year that could be us in the final weeks of the season competing for a wild card spot?
You don't want to set, too low of expectations for a young group. We have players that are performing better here than they did at times at the minor league level. So I don't want to limit them by any stretch, but I do think it's important to know that this is still a young, impressionable group that's developing at the major league level. And, is there excitement? Is there optimism? Absolutely. We need to continue to find ways to support these players. We took a jump in regards to, wins this year. But, and I go back to Will and how one of his strengths is just staying in the moment, and we never get ahead of ourselves. We don't talk about next week or the following week. It's about the game in front of you. And you look around the league, and I think the Tigers are a prime example of what they accomplished last year. And talking to the Tigers, talking to their front office and coaching staff, I don't think they really thought that they were going to make the run that they did. But you just looked up and you win this series and that series, and then you won 10 out of 12. And before you know it, you're knocking on to a playoff opportunity. That's how this happens. It's, so you just continue to find ways to improve. This club has proven that they believe in themselves, that they can beat anyone. We've won series against first base clubs, teams that are the top of the league. These guys aren't scared. They're fearless out there, and that type of attack and approach is going to bode well for us. So I don't want to limit them. I really don't, and it's my job to continue to support and add to this club when as the opportunities come our way. And I know that in the future here we're going to look up and feel pretty good about where we're at. I mean, the fans have been fantastic. They really have. I go back to our Friday nights at home, our City Connect nights. And it's been really fun. It really has. And I've had opportunities to speak to groups of our fan base and getting their feedback and things that they like and want to see, and it's been really positive. It has. And I think it's important for our fans to know that our players, they love having the fans support. They love having them show up. They perform well. And I want our fans to be a part of it. The Chicago fan base is a special one. I talk to former players all the time about how special this place is. Recently had a conversation with Paul Konerko and, was getting feedback from him. And, I kind of talking about the similar message of how great this fan base is. And he says, if you've got a team that shows fight and doesn't give up and likes to play together and plays this game hard, the fans will get around you. And we felt that this year, and we appreciate it, and we owe it to the fans to continue to grow this group.
Okay, all right. Don't be chasing the hug, Getz. Don't be chasing the fucking hug. Okay. And the other thing too is like he talks about Detroit, right? Hey, BA, who's the Scooble on this roster? Who's the Kerry Carpenter on this roster? Since he was a comparison to Detroit. Who's that?
Back-to-back Cy Youngs. Yeah, we don't have that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, Guff, Hoodie. All right, listen to that. It's like I know we just have our own podcast. I'm sure Getsy's not just sitting there listening to us, but they do listen to the media. It's like we've all been telling them. It's like, hello, no shit. If you don't have to talk to Paul Konerko to realize, like, if you play the game, these guys go without. These fans go without. They make sacrifices, whether that be in their own personal budgets to come to White Sox games, to buy season tickets, to commit to the team. If you play hard, you run balls out hard, you make diving catches, you run to the wall, you show emotion, you play the game the right way, and you also show some skill and win some tough ball games, of course these guys are going to rally behind you, but you can't polish a turd. You can't keep rattling off 60 wins and think they're going to like rally behind you. Dude, you got one more year. If by 2027 you're not in the over 500 column, like there's going to be people who are getting the chop.
They drew 30,000 6 times this year. 3 were against the Cubs, 1 was opening day. All right. They didn't even hit 30,000 on the Yankees. They were 4-2 in those games. 2 were the Cubs. I almost don't count them. Of course, players. There's never a player I've ever liked. BA, you like playing in front of 9,000 at 110 on a Thursday when you're up the tracks? You like playing in front of 39,000 110 when you guys are rock. I understand that. It's funny when I was hearing it yesterday, like in the moment, I'm like, okay, there's some stuff in here. Today, it just like makes me a little bit more like, God damn it. Like it worries me. And
yeah,
the reason I asked about 2027 is because I do think it's something that teams could use as an excuse. I do. And I think, and I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to put you on the spot with not a trivia question, but with I want to know where your head's at here because that's about all I need to hear from Chris Getz in this podcast. Like you get the summation from like the 30 minutes. There is a lot there. I do think if it was just, hey, Chris, what do you want to do? Like strip away permission, money, etc. I promise you, I really believe this in my heart. Chris Getz would say we're going to have a top-tier starter on this rotation next year, another mid-tier starter, and a closer, 100%. And then we're going to add depth bats. I don't think that they would say we're going to go out and add 2 impact starters on our offense. I think they like what they have, but I do think like a Cedric Mullins type would be better, would be good for this team. Like a Josh Naylor. He's too expensive. He's going to probably get, but somebody like that. And then just come at people with, we got that, like all of a sudden the White Sox have who at the top of the rotation? And they also have this guy in the series too. Like, oh shit, we have to game plan for more than Colson Montgomery. I think Chris Getz would say yes. But I also think, come on, like there's a lot of talk about, well, now it's up to these guys. Now it's up to their off season. We really believe in these guys. Of course you do. I think we all do. And the fans are excited. But as I mentioned at the start of this, that excitement can get muted pretty damn quickly. And you can't fool people on the South Side, Hoodie. No, you can't. No. You never have been able to do that. And we have no problem telling you so by not showing up. That's the problem. Don't give me this bullshit. Oh, well, it's a tough place to watch. It's not a tough place to watch a game. It's an underrated ballpark. Yeah. It's a great family experience. The food's fantastic. It's easy on, easy off. You can tailgate your ass off and you can go home. That's what you can do. It's a fine experience. I don't need a new stadium to be happy, by the way. I'm in the minority. I don't need to be in the 78, the 88, the 100. I don't give a shit. The stadium's fine. It was always there our entire lives across the street. It's always that way. I don't need that. What I need is to be proud of the Chicago White Sox. That's what I want to be proud of. I want to be proud of them. When I say I'm a White Sox fan, right now we're a laughingstock across the board. I'm a Chicago sports fan that also has to wear the burden of 41 and 121 for the rest of my life. Yeah. Thank you for nothing.
Yeah. So, and because of that, if you feel good about the kids that you have, then reward them by being able to add on. And that's what you must do. By the way, you mentioned Colson Montgomery. I've never heard someone, BA, say that Colson Montgomery questions about him because he's 6'3". I'm 6'3". Right. It's not like Dela Cruz that's short, who's 6'8" for the Reds. It's like at 6'3", he can play shortstop, and he's one of those cornerstones that I root for, man. I root for these young guys I think I'm hoping the best for those guys. So no, at 6'3", I'm fine with if Montgomery's my shortstop every day at 6'3", I'm fine. Thank you. Too.
Yeah, and we've talked about it, Guff. Like I think eventually, when he turns 27, 28, 29, starts really filling out. He's wore the brunt of about 4 or 5 full big league seasons, and he puts on that size and really kind of solidifies himself. I think he will move to a corner, but we're not there yet. But let me tell you, as I'm sure Guff, you're going to say, I've been wanting to say it since I met you. As we put a bow on this thing. No, there's a couple of things I can promise you this, and this is what I could tell. This is what visibly pissed you guys off during those interviews, or the presser. There was Chris absolutely knows how much he's going to have to spend this offseason within probably a few million either way.
I think he's got a ballpark, 100%.
Number 2, they know exactly how much debt, and if they do have debt to begin with, that could just be something they're using as an excuse. But I just hate that, because I hate that I hope you guys don't share the same with this obsession I do when I hear stuff like that. It's just every answer it can be affiliated with the term "hurry up and wait." Yeah, we're gonna do this, but first we need to blank. Yeah, we're going to check this out. I can promise you this. The worst thing Chris Getz can do in this offseason is wait to see what the market looks like. You go get a Cedric Mullins, like you said. You go get him before he tests the market.
Be the market. Yes. Be the market.
You go take that $50 million or whatever that may be. You go spend it. You get him for 2-year 20, 3-year 30. You go get an arm for a 1-year 10, a couple 1-year 10s, and be done. And say, look, here's what we did. Because if you wait, the fucking Cedric Mullins of the world is going to cost 50, man. It's going to be a lot of dough.
Yeah, so Gup, when he talks about the market, he sounds like he's in Los Angeles with the Dodgers or the Atlanta Braves or like Seattle. Like those are when those GMs can talk about, well, we'll see what the market brings. You're in no position to talk about measuring the market because you won't be in the mix. You don't have the swing to be able to have those type of players on your roster. So it's a nice thing that he said, but don't BS us. There is no market for you here. Your market is to be able to find the guys in the middle that can be able to help you right now, because you have to be better than what you have. If people project you to be out of the basement and actually getting better next season, then you should do that. And by the way, I don't know why he turns a blind eye to a possible lockout or strike, because it's inevitable until we hear otherwise. So if we're going to be out of baseball in 2027, reward the young guys with something. Reward the young guys on your roster, even if you have more young guys. But I prefer some veterans because that's good for the locker room, A, and B, they can help you win some ball games.
Also, good for the fans. Like because if they do lock out in 2027, or right now, I think all of us would say they are. I don't know how the sport's going to recover anyway. So give the fans a cookie on their way out. I mean, I'm being serious. I mean, the White Sox do have a lot going for them post-strike, and that's a different podcast way down the road. But I'm with you guys. Like, I go back to Austin Slater when the White Sox signed him at the beginning of last offseason. And remember what his comment was? The White Sox told me I was their number one target. Well, I can promise you they were the one. And Austin Slater got flipped at the deadline. He's a good platoon against lefty type guy. But find your 3, whoever your Austin Slater types, and hopefully they're not $1.5 million and you're spending a little bit more, and go get them. To your point, stop. Well, let's just wait around and then get involved. They're not taking your call. They're not. And I'll be curious to see what they do on the international market. Before I ask you guys a question, we have a new sponsor here. September's back. And as Hoodie said, football's packed, because that's what, as White Sox fans, the last 3 effing years, we have to worry about. Kids are back in school, time to get your routine locked in. But if you're still battling sinus pressure, allergies, snoring, BA is a snorer, you're not starting the season strong. That's why I recommend Sinus and Snoring MD. Their advanced treatments, procedures actually fix the problem so you can breathe easier, sleep better, feel better. Don't wait for the cold weather to hit. Start your season the right way. Visit sinusandsnoringmd.com today or call 847-886-0875. Yeah, call that number. Will you be? It's a snooze fest with you.
No. Luckily, my wife, my daughter, they're immune to it, man. But I wake myself up sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I've heard it.
Yeah, you have nightmares of me being the first baseman for the future. That's why that's a problem.
All right, here's my question I'm going to ask you as we put a bow on this, BA. Will the White Sox sign a multi-year free agent?
Yes.
Yes. And I have the topic for our next podcast. Us three should write down 2 arms and 2 position players that you would like to see the White Sox sign, and what would you give them in a contract?
Okay, I think here's what we're going to do for the next podcast. We're going to do BA and I graded the rookie class at like the midway point. Okay, we're going to give them a final grade. Final grades are in for the rookies. And then the next podcast, because then the playoffs start. And as you guys know, the World Series, once that's over, it's like 5 days later, boom, you can go sign Austin Slater. So let's get that done. Guys, really good stuff. I love getting the truth and the honesty behind how we felt about Chris Getz's comments. And to your point, Hoodie, and I know you got something.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he had to kind of play the hits while also saying, I can't say too much because, well, you know.
It's what he does, man. I understand. Listen, he's got to say what he's got to say. He realizes that the purse strings are tight. So, I just want better for my White Sox. Just one quick thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been seeing it on your timeline, but there's a lot of love for Jeff Torborg.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen this, like that documentary out on Jeff?
The old Comiskey or whatever. About how he picked the uniforms.
So I just think that's the coolest thing, right? Jeff Torborg has become like Chicago's Dave Wanstead now. Because Wanstead's like still like relevant. He's on Channel 5 doing stuff. I'm going to tell you after the nose why the Bears should have won. Like that kind of thing.
They got to do teases now.
Right. I was like, what are you doing, Wani? Like, we hated you because you were after Ditka, but now he's like a favorite, right? Well, I love Jeff Torborg's teams.
Me too.
Jeff Torborg's teams were hot. It was the 90 team was one of my favorite teams.
Might be my favorite team.
90 was not like they didn't go to the play, but I love that 90 team, right? That 1919 was good. But I just want to point out that Jeff was right about just getting back to just the White Sox cool uniform. Because as I went to the Sox shop at the rate the other day and picked up this Sox hat, I was going to wear this for the podcast. And I go,
that's smooth.
No one can see this though.
No
one can see the light blue.
Pull it back
Chicago
just a
White
bit.
Sox.
Pull it back just a bit. Yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet, man.
It's fine, but like it's so light on the podcast, like it doesn't work for the video. It's a Mitchell and Ness, and I go, these are not really White Sox colors. It's nice, but it's not like this traditional black and white, So like this is cute, on the boat or whatever on the lake, but as far as the podcast, it's got to be black and white. So Torborg was right. Just the basic colors. That's what matters for the White Sox.
I will say the cursive C that he so hated. I identify that logo with some of my favorite 67 and 95 teams.
the Fregosi Sox, right?
The Fregosi, Gary Redis, Fred Manrique White Sox.
I'm glad, Hoodie, you brought up Jeff Torborg, man. That guy wrote me an unbelievable note one day when I was visiting his son out in Ormond Beach in Daytona out there. And he wrote me just the most amazing note that I'll cherish forever, just being like, man, thank you so much, Brian. It's a pleasure meeting you, and you're going to be great. And it was so cool just to meet him, and I know his son is
the Demon D,
great dude, man.
Yeah, Dale's one of the best, and I got the chance to meet him, Jeff Torborg. I'm talking about here before he passed, and what a great ambassador for the Chicago White Sox. I don't know how all of a sudden he's been kind of rebirthed on X or Twitter, but awesome. I have come across that in my timeline, Hoodie. To your point, and I've enjoyed going down going down those. Those are fun things to go down, especially in this climate right now. Geez, give me Jeff Torborg all day long.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, really good.
It's a classy guy. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. One of the best. Great stuff, guys. Putting a bow on this one. And of course, it's all brought to you by the Illinois Tollway and their If Only campaign. A powerful reminder that speeding doesn't just put you at risk. It affects everyone on the road. Every crash leaves someone wishing they'd done things differently. Take the extra time, slow down, save lives, including yours. Depend on it. Illinois Tollway, proud partner of the White Sox Recap Podcast. And as you can see, or not, Hoodie's awesome Mitchell and Ness cap that doesn't quite work for the podcast. It's too bright. It's too light. All of you listening, though, check it out. It's the old Bill Melton 72 jersey colors. The zipper jersey. The Mitchell. Do you have one of those, Hoodie? The Mitchell and Ness zipper jerseys?
No, unless it comes into like a potato sack. That's the only way I'm going to be able to fit it. That's the only way I can fit one of those.
Oh, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening on audio only, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you click that notification bell so every time we have a new episode, you get the alert so you can listen or watch right away. For Jonathan Hood, where you can catch him every day from 6 to 9 on ESPN 1000 with some guy named Cap. Brian Anderson right there. You see him each and every week right here on the White Sox Recap Podcast. I'm Ryan McGuffey. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on the White Sox Recap Podcast.